Well, good morning. We welcome you to our Center for Conscious Living Sunday celebration. It is May 24th, 2020. I'm Dr. Carol Lawson. I'm the founding minister here and the person who is so delighted to welcome you. We often start with this phrase, I open my heart to the universe, accepting love and healing. Just invite you to enter into this. I open my heart to the universe, accepting love and peace. I open my heart to the universe, accepting love and joy. And so it is. And now I'm thrilled and delighted to introduce to you our speaker for the day. I've looked at various biographies of this glorious woman. She has long and short versions on her website. Check out marthacreek.com for many things. Ordained in religious science and divine science. She's on faculty or has been in Unity worldwide teaching Unity ministers. She has traveled all over the world teaching everybody pretty much, mostly in service to, as she says, those who serve, to ministers. She's done all kinds of work with healthy congregations. She's beautiful, as everybody who was there yesterday will testify to, the work with Byron Katie. She's from Bug Tussle, Tennessee, and has more education than, I don't know, I think the whole county maybe now. She's just seems to know everything, but I believe that that's because she's so guided by her heart, which is wide open and filled with love for all of us. So I am thrilled to introduce to you Martha Creek.
Hi, everybody. Thank you, Dr. Carol. Thank you for that. And I am, Bug Tussle is actually in Kentucky, but right on the border. So you can literally throw a rock into Tennessee from there. So
okay. I'll try and get it right.
And depending on who you ask, they may say, oh no, it's Tennessee. So Bug Tussle is such in demand that every state wants to claim they have a Bug Tussle. And the only one I know of, which is the one the Beverly Hillbillies were from, is on the border of Kentucky and Tennessee, but actually in Kentucky. So good morning, everybody. It's my absolute privilege to be here. As Dr. Carol said, I have a very clear calling from my earliest memory, 3 years old, my earliest memories, to be here in service, to serve those who serve. And I actually believe that and endeavor to live by that our thoughts and words and deeds and actions not only contribute to my own soul's growth and evolution, but to the evolution of humanity as a species. So I dedicate this time with you because I naturally believe that about you, because otherwise we wouldn't be aligned. So I believe my appointment is a divine appointment and yours is, and this Center of Conscious Living is a place for it. So our sanctuary, our way to question, to really discern what is true for us and how we're going to be with these teachings. So as I was reflecting today, yesterday coming on the call, and bows to all of you who were in that workshop, and those that weren't, come in today because we're going to have a big time there. That when I hear the term, I'm in a higher consciousness, I'm in a high consciousness, or others have a high consciousness, and begin to reflect on what that means. Like, what would be the examples? What would be your indicator that you're coming from a high consciousness? What would be your indicator that you're coming from a higher perspective, a more innovative, resourceful, clear perspective? What would be your indicators about this? And that then I referred to Dr. David Hawkins. Many of you will know his work. He had a trilogy that started with the power versus force. And in that, he mapped consciousness, calibrated and mapped consciousness, with the highest being that of the enlightened masters, whoever you would refer to as that, Jesus, the Buddha, and that we are in a conscious evolution. So we are able to and called to in some way to develop and to build our own consciousness, and then so to move up a ladder, for lack of a better way of putting it, in consciousness, so that we can then advance and operate from a place of power, the opposite of force. So force can get us results. Force can even get us some satisfaction, although us spiritual types don't like to admit that. We get some satisfaction out of force, out of control, out of manipulating and getting our way, but it's not sustainable. Versus a place of power then, which when we operate from this place is sustainable. And it yields then a personal fulfillment, an atonement, if you will, or an awakening that says, this is true, this is truer for me, this is an integrity with myself. So then we're more likely then, as we practice that and live from that, that we're going to have a greater expansion of living from that integrity and living from that potential. And then therefore we're more likely, as we clear that and develop that within us, in our internal world, into the world of our mental, in the world of our emotional, in the world of our spiritual, then we're able then to have a more fulfilling impact, a more fulfilling effect, result in the external. So then I wanted to look, and am looking and have been working with this for 2 decades now, and over 20 years, to look at then what is it that would cause me to stay stuck, that would leave me less advanced, or leave me in an inertia or a homeostasis of the 2,000-year-old archaic, more regressed, lower tendency mind. And then how then to awaken to and get empathetic with myself and all the aspects with myself and you, as we then reach and grow into these new levels. So then to begin to look at then, what is it? What is causing us the bind? What causes us to maybe live more stuck? So, and remembering now, based on in Michael's beautiful reading and the invocation there, reminding us that we are manifested as pure states. We're manifested as in wholeness, as wholeness itself. So there's nothing about us that's not whole, nothing about us that's trouble or bad or awful or wrong. And in essence, and then back here at the ranch, we definitely experience it as something's wrong, there is a problem, something's wrong with me, and then that. And it's actually, and it's those old belief systems and that archaic thinking that would leave us bound in some of this. So let's imagine then today, as we go into this, that I'll be putting forth some things and encouraging you, hopefully, and inspiring you also to look to see, without any recrimination, without any raking you over the coals. Have you had enough raking you over the coals to last you the rest of your life? So that today can be a day of, okay, I'm taking me off the spit. I'm taking me off of that. And in doing so, I'm more likely to be able to take others off too. So then, as we are then moving toward intentional today, very powerfully and intentionally, willing to and desirous of and intentional to actually reach a higher state of consciousness right now, right here. Not up the road, not when I get a degree, not when I retire, but today, that this day and this session, this service here in May 24th of 2020 is the date that you reach a higher state of consciousness. Therefore, less likely to regress, less likely to fall into some of this allure of the mind and the old ways of the mind. So let's look at some of these things then that may have us Velcroed. So imagine then you with Velcro for a minute. Your Velcro, and how shame has stuck to you. Shame for what I did, shame for what I didn't do, shame for what I could have done, shame for what I should have done. And just notice how that is a suicide, passive suicide, to continue to Velcro that onto ourselves. A suicide of the spirit, of vitality, of high thinking. And then get a sense of what it would be like if the Velcro was clear. If the Velcro, you know what happens when Velcro, when it's worn out, it won't stick. So if the shame was still coming, and shame ideas and shame notions and shame memories, and if that was still coming and it simply had no Velcro, if it had no stickability on you, what would that be like? And get a sense of it in your body. And then get a sense of being in the presence of guilt. The way guilt has been used in our society, in our families, in our relationships, to manipulate, to punish, to control. And if after today, after this very moment in time, and this very, very auspicious day in your life's journey, the Velcro of guilt was clear, what would that be like? Free of remorse, free of recrimination, masochism, any self-hate, free. And then let's continue to clear. So think about an energy like apathy, despair, hopelessness, that flavor of that, where the world and the future look bleak. And who would you be instead if that had no Velcro? If you absolutely could see what's happening in the world and not be of it. To see what's happening in the world and to hold your energy higher. To avail yourself with inner resources, spiritual resources, emotional stamina, uncommon motivation. So no Velcro for apathy, helplessness. So a shift of the mind out of what I can't do, I just can't, I can't, to what can I do? In any situation, regardless of the situation, regardless of the circumstance, what can I do? And to notice the heaviness of fear. And not because fear's wrong or negative or immoral in some way, but just notice the weight of it. What happens when fear takes over and all the energy that it takes. And this chronic anxiety of living with this imagined fear, these imagined threats, imagined images, and no limit to what it can be afraid of. And how obsessive fear is, compulsive and obsessive, and not to mention irrational. So instead, then, what if it's fine to have fear? Make room for some fear. Fear is fine. It's normal. It's part of my wholeness, alpha and omega. So fear will be present. And what it would be like to have fear and fear not have you. Imagine having fear present, and fear not having you. And big, deep breaths. And then let's look at the heaviness of wanting, the heaviness of desire. Although we know it's innate, we have it, we were born with it, we weren't even really born until we started wanting something. Like your earliest memory, if you look at it carefully, would be when you were born into the mind, was a wanting something, wanting love, wanting approval, wanting to be seen, wanting to feel safe, wanting to know we're okay. So that desire is hardwired in us. And then ad infinitum, the desire for reward, for money, to be attractive, for cravings, the desire to be a somebody, the desire for prestige. It's to infinity, this desire. And then it's heavy. This insatiable wanting. Because then the second it gets satisfied, it's already got a list of 10 more things. And although desire is higher, it's a higher causative, creative energy than apathy, helplessness, desire, depression, grief. So it's still, although it's more causative and creative, it's still got a heaviness to it because of the insatiability of it. The fact that we can't quite ever get content or satisfied. So in order to get, we got to have this wanting, and then that's the heaviness of it. So think about then that we're going to use that desire as a springboard, that it could be the bridge that we cross into our next level of consciousness, into a higher level of consciousness. And will you cross that bridge today that says, I have desire, I have wanting, I'm being impulsed here, and I'm going to accept that sometimes I'll get what I want, I'll get what I desire, and sometimes I won't. Reality. So I'm not going to let my peace, my love, my joy, I'm not going to let that wanting be a thief of the joy, of the love, of the peace that I have, knowing that it's insatiable and I'm using it to go toward what I actually want and what I'm desiring, accepting that it may or may not be. At least the way my mind has formulated it ought to be. So it won't be how I think it ought to be, it'll be perfect instead. From that state of consciousness, which then gets us into levels of courage, like the courage to follow a desire, the courage to try something new. So get a sense now as you clear some of this Velcro, the older lower tendencies can't stick. And instead, if you got some space there, what it would like to be living in more courageously. To have courage in times of loss, to have courage in times of change, and to put our focus and our energies in developing that much, much more powerful level of thought, courage. So this is the level of consciousness that's equated to empowerment. So get a sense of being empowered, of feeling empowered, regardless of the situation, regardless of the circumstance, regardless of how it appears. If you felt empowered in relationship to it, what would that be like? A fortitude, like a heightened determination. Remember what it was like when you wanted a bike as a kid. Hell or high water wouldn't have stopped you from having a bike. Every way in the world, where can I get a bike? Who's got a bike? How much do they cost? Where can I work? That type of determination, that type of fortitude. And see, there's no way that the lower levels of fear, frustration, and thwarted wanting and apathy, helplessness, why bother? There's no way for it to exist in this higher note. So think high note, a high C, a C sharp instead of a B flat. So how to live as C sharp, C sharply instead of B flat. And I don't know a thing about music, so Jackie can enlighten us about the net. But it was presented to me one time, like if we can hold that higher note, whatever the high note is, in this case, the C sharp is a higher note, over time, the lower note rises. It'll become in resonance with that over time and holding the higher note. This level of courage, of determination, implies now a willingness, which we practiced yesterday in the workshop, to get willing going. I am willing, I'm willing, I'm willing to try new things and to meet the vicissitude of life, to meet the OMG of life differently, to meet it differently. And to have a sense of, I'm equipped for this. I know how to cope. So regardless of the situation or circumstance, I know how to be with this. I know a different way to be with this. So then there's a heightened capacity, a willingness to face fear then, to face losses, to face character defects, to face anxiety, so that they can't bog us down. They can't cripple our endeavor to be and express in the world the way we desire to from a state of higher consciousness. So then obstacles that were obstacles before, the obstacle itself will still be there in the experience, but we cannot experience it as obstacle, but as a catapult, as a reason to go back to a level of empowerment. And then people in this level, like the people that you desire, the people you like hanging with, run a different energy. They have a different energy, a different attitude about things, a different mindset about things. We even call it things like-minded. And we also then begin to see there's some real productivity here. Something happens. So then these teachings are not just a theory, but the teachings are manifest. The teachings are then demonstrated in the way we're being, living, leading in the world. And there's a position referred to in these teachings, Dr. David Hawkins' teachings, that I have found such great power in, and he calls it neutrality. And it's not all that popular with people I share it with sometimes, so we'll see how it lands on you today. So think about a neutral person, what being with life more neutrally could be like. Now we're looking at higher states of consciousness. So neutrality as a higher state of consciousness that they, for example, could say, well, if I don't get this job, it's fine. It's not the job for me. So it's not just affirming, but it's an embodiment of I'm neutral whether I get the job or not. So then I don't get the job, more neutral. I get the job, more neutral about it, knowing that everything shifts, everything changes. And this neutrality was in the beginning of doing this work. The book that the work of Byron Katie is based on is called Loving What Is. Well, I don't love what is. Seldom. I don't even like what is most of the time. However, neutrality stopped me from being at war with what is. So it holds a power in me personally, and a power I'm witnessed in thousands of people, a power of neutrality being in the middle there that's inexpressible. I can't express what that neutrality means to me. And I may never love what is. I don't know. But I have experienced liberation and freedom from a more neutral position, in a more neutral state of consciousness about it. So then there's also then a confidence that comes from that. So there would be no room to be intimidated, no room for intimidation. So a confidence that's not just a theory of confidence. And then more driven, more equipped, more empowered to be with the ups and the downs, both and. Times of ups and times of downs, both and. Times of they come and they love me, and times they go and they don't love me. Both and. Drought and flood. And it's more able then, just for lack of a better way of putting it, to go with the flow, to roll with the punches. The punches of life, the unfoldment of life as it is, that includes losses and upsets and frustrations and diagnoses and diseases and everything that we somewhere along the way gave 2 thumbs down to. But it's no, it's included, and I can be with it differently. So then experientially, this level, this neutrality, is a level of safety that most people are seeking. Like when I ask people, what is it you desire most in the world? The answers usually can be summed up to 3 things: power, value, and safety. And these are things we think we don't have. So it would be, I'm not deserving is the cousin of, I have no value. They were threatening me. I didn't feel safe. They yelled. They're angry with me. That's the cousins of, I'm not safe. So this neutrality holds a capacity and a potential for true inner safety. So I'm safe regardless of what they say about me. I'm safe regardless of what they do. Safe in infinity. And then I'm not seeking safety from external sources. Not seeking safety from persona or attainment or accumulation or accomplishment. And then at this level, there's just loss of interest. The Velcro then, that Velcro where we love conflict, we love arguing, or we love getting silent and punishing them with our silence. So silence is violence. See, it would have no place. No competition. Certainly the other lower guilts and shames and all that would have no place in this neutrality. Less judgmental, less likely to interpret, less likely to make up a story, less likely to add on to something, less likely to attempt to control other people's behaviors. Would that be okay with you? If after today you just began to watch their behaviors with less incline to try to attempt, try to control them, and then to claim for yourself freedom, liberation. And then when that means more to you than anything, to stay liberated, to stay freer of the lower tendencies. And when it means more to me to live in a higher consciousness, to live in a more elevated consciousness, then over time and with practice, the choice after choice after choice becomes a choice that aligns with that. Less and less allure of the old way of being and the more regressed way of being. So big, deep breath and get a sense of what happened to you just as you heard this. The resistance to it, the mind will say, yeah, but, you don't know my family. Yeah, but you don't have my husband. Yeah, but you don't. So that's normal, the yeah, buts. So even in that resistance, who you would be as balanced, neutral, equipped, empowered, accepting life unfolding on its own terms, willing to be with it differently, willing to experience it differently, and taking a heightened, more excitable responsibility for it. Like, if our teachings is true, then the causative generative use of my mind, I'm going to test it to see what is possible for me as I make a different choice. As I then work at the level of whatever arises, my power lies in my creating a new experience of that. Not changing the circumstance or the situation, but changing my experience of that. And then more harmony, inner balance, a centeredness that we've only heard of, only read about. And then a chance then to live in these states like beautiful Jackie sung to, a state of love when we couldn't even access it before. A state of peace that's so radical it would shock us that we could have peace in a situation where there had not been peace before. And joy, and not because joy is positive, and not happiness because get happy, like a fake happiness, a fake positivity, but no, a joy for knowing the teachings, for knowing the potential of the teaching, the joy of witnessing what can be caused by a change of thought, what can be experienced through a change of mind and through a new mindset. And then love and joy and peace and the things we pray about and sing about become less conditional. So not love when I get my way, more love even when I don't get my way, because it feels too heavy to withhold that. It feels too heavy not to be that once we have a new relationship with that. So think about then today is the day you have enlightenment right now. That you know what hurts and you know what doesn't. You know what drags and you know what expands. You know what weakens you and you know what strengthens you. Enlightenment. And then applying new choices. And an actual, literal, emotional, physical, spiritual transcendence of self, a transcendence of those more primal instincts. And then through living this, through expressing this, through modeling this, we have a new possibility for anybody else willing to sit and look, for anybody else willing to consider there's something above this deep chronic suffering available to us all right here and right now. So get a sense of it in your body, a new state of awareness, a new potential, a new radical option. And how you can live from that starting now. And you'll get some pop quizzes this afternoon. You'll get some chances to apply this. Be easy with yourself. And I commit to you to be easier with me too. My blessings to each and every one of you. Thank you for the ways you serve the world. Thank you for your own hard work, your own looking, your own commitment to higher states of consciousness and to living from it. And we devote this time, this learning and this unlearning to higher states of consciousness within ourselves and to the whole of humanity. And so it is. Amen.
And so it is. Amen. Thank you, Martha.
You're welcome.
Thank you. So we just take a breath and we take that in. And we allow it, as Martha suggests, to embody within us. Deeply grateful, deeply grateful.
MarthaCreek.com if I can support you. Blessings.